Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the January 14th, 2025 meeting of the Sewage Commission. My name is Jake Martins. I'm the General Manager of Corporate Services and the Corporate Officer for the Comox Valley Regional District. It's my pleasure to call this meeting to order for the purposes of conducting the election for the Chair and Vice Chair positions for 2025. Before jumping into that process, I will recognize that we're conducting our business today on the traditional unceded territory of the Comox First Nation. Directors, this is the third year of this term, and so I think generally there's probably some familiarity concerning the process of the election of the chair and vice chair. It does function most basically through the nomination of other directors. Any other director may nominate another one for the position, either position, and following got a bit of oh pardon me. Following those nominations, should there be more than one director that is nominated and accepts those nominations, we will then conduct a vote to determine the position. Are there any questions concerning the process overall? This is, as I said, an abbreviated version of it, but appreciate there's generally familiarity. Seeing no questions, so I will begin by calling for nominations for the position of chair. Director Kerr.
I'd like to nominate Director Hillian.
Thank you. I will call a second time for nominations for the position of chair. And I will call a third and final time for any nominations for the position of chair. Seeing no further nominations, Director Hillian, do you allow your name to stand? A minute may be taken, yes. Thank you. Director Hillian is confirmed in the affirmative. So with that, I'm pleased to announce you acclaimed to the position of chair for 2025 for the Sewage Commission. With that, directors, we'll move on to the vice chair position. So same general process. I'll call three times. So I'll call a first time for nominations for the position of vice chair and Director Hillian.
Thanks, Jake. I'd like to nominate Director Kerr.
Thank you. I will call a second time for any nominations. And I will call a third and final time. With that, Director Kerr, do you allow your name to stand? He's confirmed in the affirmative, so same declaration of your acclamation to the position. So thank you very much. There are no ballots to destroy, so thank you for your participation and cooperation. And with that, I'll turn the proceedings over to Chair Hillian.
Thanks very much, Jake, and thanks everyone. I don't know whether this is a dubious honor, but I'm pleased to once again chair this process, and I thank all of you for your participation and your diligence in moving us through the momentous project of the sewer conveyance project, and I think it's going to be a very significant year as we see the major work on that, the traffic disruption that comes with it, and it will call on all of us to not only exercise our judgment and discretion here at the table, but also to use our communication skills in supporting the community with the inconvenience that will result from this project. But we'll all be very grateful as we see it completed to provide this vital service that we all rely on. So with that, we will move into today's agenda. And the first item is the resolution status report from, well, a motion for receipt, please. Move McCollum, seconded Cole Hamilton. Questions or comments? Seeing none, anyone opposed? That is carried. And our first report, we're rising and reporting on the Hudson trunk capacity constraints. And we have a staff report dated September 10th regarding the Hudson trunk capacity. Mr. Warren?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So good afternoon to the Commission. There's no action that's needed from the Commission at this time.
but the agenda there does include that staff report from September 10th. The conditions around it being at the closed session have now been met, and we're able to release that report to the public, and so it's contained on this this agenda for information. As well, I'll note that there's correspondence dated January 9th that provides some additional details and correction to some of the information, or one piece of information that was included in the report from September 10th. We've been working with the City of Courtenay staff in that regard, and if you have any questions about either the September report or the January correspondence, we can certainly answer those. This is just presented here for transparency, to provide the information in the public.
All right, I don't see any questions or comments, so thanks for that, James, and we'll move on to item number 2, the Sewage Management Advisory Committee minutes dated November 28th. Moved by Grant, seconded by Swift. Any comments or questions? Anyone opposed to receipt? That's approved. And Management Committee minutes dated January 7th. Moved Grant, seconded Swift. Questions, comments? Anyone opposed? That's carried. And item number 3, we have the sewage outfall update, a report dated January the 8th. Motion for receipt, please. Moved Grant, seconded Cole Hamilton. Over to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Zoe Berkey, our Senior Engineering Analyst, will be introducing this report and available for questions. Zoe?
Thanks, James, through the CAO and the chair to the commission. So in September, the Sewage Commission approved 2 budget amendments for the condition assessment of the outfall in the Stage 2 environmental impact study. This report is just intended to provide a brief update on those. So we have tentatively scheduled the condition assessment to occur in late January, early February. That is weather and permit permitting, but hoping all things go well, we'll be able to get out there then. In parallel, the winter set of sampling for the Stage 2 environmental impact study is being scheduled for late January, early February as well. If we don't get the winter sampling in this February, we could be looking at a 4 to 6 month delay on the LWMP, as it's very clear that winter sampling is January and February. So we'd have to wait till next January to complete that winter sampling if not done now. We will report on the condition assessment results and any updates as they become available, but this was just intended to be a brief update. Any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks very much. Questions or comments from anyone? Seeing none, is anyone opposed to receipt? That's carried. Thanks very much, Zoe. And item number 4, the Comox Valley Sewage Conveyance Project Traffic Management Report dated January 7th. The motion for receipt, please. Moved by Kerr, seconded by McCollum. And over to staff.
Thanks, Chair. Charlie Gore, our Senior Manager of Capital Projects Delivery, will be introducing this report on the project traffic management plan, and also the next report on the construction progress dashboard. So Charlie, over to you.
Thank you, CAO. Thank you, Chair. I have a very small presentation to present today. If I can find it. So the time is now. We are ready to start communicating out to the public for the start of unidirectional traffic. So the first location that we're going to be starting the work on Comox Road is between Farmview Road and the Courtenay Pump Station. So that's the far western end of the corridor, seen highlighted here in the map, and that we plan to start that in March. The March date is significant, as we plan to start immediately after the treaty vote of Comox First Nation, so that we are not impacting their ability to have turnout for their very important vote. And it also aligns well with our schedule. That's when we expect to be complete for building the force main through the farmers' fields between Farmview Road and IR1, which is where we're working right now. And it is seen as a bit of a soft start for the unidirectional traffic. I know that it's going to be hugely impactful, but the complexity of starting in this zone is a lot less than starting up on Comox Hill with Comox Avenue, and the further east part of the corridor is a bit more complex with the traffic management plans. So starting down here for March and April, constricting our work there allows the folks within the corridor, for example, if you're trying to get from the town of Comox to the band office, you can go both east and west along Dyke Road up until Farmview Road there. One of the recommendations of the report is focused around back road. There's obviously been a huge amount of communication around ensuring that back road is not used as a detour route and to mitigate additional traffic of people trying to avoid going on the official detour and using back road. And so when we were communicating out to the public on this, we had planned to close the intersection of Glacier View Drive and Comox Avenue. This is a snapshot from our traffic management plan that's been approved. One of the recommendations is to delay that road closure at Glacier View Drive and Comox Avenue. And the reason for that is that when we first envisaged this, we expected to be working up on top of the hill there at the start of the commencement of the unidirectional traffic. Now that we have adjusted the construction sequencing to start our work at the far western end of the corridor, there is no construction need to close that intersection. I'm sure you're all aware that we'll be building a roundabout up at the top of the hill there later this year. But until our contractor arrives at that location, if we close that road in advance, we'll be severely impacting the ability for Comox First Nation to flow back and forth between the two halves of their community, as well as for other folks navigating that area. You know, closing roads where there is no nearby construction will cause a lot of angst in the community. So there is a recommendation to modify the approved traffic management plan to delay the need to close that intersection until either we need to for construction reasons, which we believe will be more like May or early June, or if the shortcutting through back road becomes an issue, at which point we would close that as a way to reduce the flow on back road. So that's the main recommendation in the report. The report's intent is to make sure that we're all aligned one last time before Ingrid's team goes out and blankets the airwaves, getting our public ready for unidirectional flow in March, but also to ask for your permission to make this change, albeit minor, but understanding the political significance of traffic flow on back road is significant. Also within the report is an updated schedule, so that rejigging of the sequencing is presented as a table in the report, but I've put it up here as a graphic just to for everyone to see where we're at. You can see the green line is force main that has been installed throughout 2024. And right now our contractors are in downtown Comox working west. So I can't see my cursor, unfortunately, but I'm very downtown, and that green line is growing to the left of the screen, as well as you can see the green line just starting down on Dyke Road there, where we're working just in behind Dyke Road on Farmview Road. And so we have crews working in both directions there right now. And that's it for my presentation on the report. Happy to answer any questions or concerns from the Commission.
Thanks very much, Charlie. Director McCollum?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with the suggested approach here, but my question is just around what the threshold would be for when we determine if there is too much detour traffic on back road. I mean, I think it's fair to say that we expect there to be some increase in traffic in that area, but at what would be the threshold where we determine that we're going to close that intersection and cause a disruption for other folks because the situation with the detour traffic has gotten untenable on back road. It seems like there's maybe various ways to interpret what too much detour traffic is. So I'm just wondering if we've thought, what the baseline is right now and how much more volume we would accept in that zone before we look at closing that intersection.
Yeah, it's a very fair question, and we have refrained from putting objective values on this for particular reason that volume of cars doesn't always indicate the ability for traffic to flow nor safety issues. So from our traffic engineers, they say the larger the volume, normally the lower the speed. And currently the concerns on back road have been mainly focused around people speeding on back road. So a small increase in volume may actually help some of the safety concerns that are there now. But there's other factors as well. So we've been working very hard to baseline the traffic flow on back road for the last full year. And we have that at 4 different locations, working our way all the way from Ryan all the way to to Comox Avenue. And it's important where that traffic increases as well. So the road closure at the far eastern end here at Glacier View Drive and Comox Avenue will definitely impact the folks flowing between McDonald Road and Comox Avenue, but it may not have much of an impact of the people flowing, around 10th Street, which I know is a key intersection on back road. And so what we have left it as a subjective line in the sand right now at the discretion of staff, because it's very hard to put objective values and choose specific locations where this would be a trigger. I want to remind you, in the traffic management plan, we have potential closures at Morrison Road, which would be far more effective at reducing the traffic volume if we're seeing really high volume, for example, at Back and 10th, and we're actually not seeing that much of volume through IR1. Or, for example, we're seeing a lot of shortcutting along Strathcona Crescent up through the back streets here, which aren't designed for large flow. We have in the traffic management plans to potentially close Strathcona Crescent and this tiny little Corker Avenue here. So this is only one of the potential road closures that we have in our traffic management plan, and we have left it as a subjective and at the direction of our CAO to make that call based on a lot of data that we will be bringing back, not only continuing to monitor the flows, but how different intersections are flowing and where we are seeing issues will impact what reaction we have. And we have the others detailed through the traffic management plan and approved already. This is a new one that is more, instead of doing it proactively, we're asking to do it reactively like the other potential closures. Does that answer your question? Okay. Is there a piece that needs more detail?
Director McCollum, do you want to put your mic on? And
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I do understand the rationale in leaving it up to an operational decision. I guess in changing it and not having a clear understanding of what would trigger the closure, I'm just thinking in terms of responding to the public, because inevitably, even if it is, moving in a way that we expect, that, like I said, there will be some impacts. We understand that. And yeah, if it's not easy to articulate to people in that area that are being impacted that would like to see the closure, and that it is, an operational decision that will be subjective, I think we could have challenges in responding to people. But having said that, I do appreciate that there is a lot of analysis and that we do want to be able to be reactive. But I do think it's good to have a clear understanding of what we're going to react to and what we're not, if that makes sense.
thanks, Director McCollum. CAO Warren would like to speak to this.
Yeah, I think I appreciate that interest in being reactive and responsive. And if the commission supports this recommendation, we can put together some speaking notes or some assistance to help with some of that public communication, because I think it's a really good point that you're going to be faced with those questions in the grocery store lineup or elsewhere. And so we can assist in that way to try to provide some notes around a very complex and fluid situation. if the commission does support this recommendation.
May I add to that? We will be providing objective answers to those concerns as well. So, for example, a concern is raised from a resident that lives on a certain portion about increase in traffic, and we can say, we have models to suggest that it has increased by 30% where you are, yes. But the traffic has actually not increased by that same amount at the other end where we were proposing to close the road. So that traffic is actually flowing past your house up McDonald, for example, and closing the road at Glacier View Drive, Comox Avenue would not have that desired effect. And so we will have very objective data to respond to concerns from the public. It's not a matter of us being very wishy-washy on all things. It's a matter of not allowing a very hard trigger in the sand for implementing something that will provide more pain than gain is the rationale.
Thanks for that. And Director Cole Hamilton.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. And just building on that, I think that the CAO's answer was roughly what I was looking for. I'm just hoping that obviously it's not a quantitative process, but if we can get sort of a clear sense of what the qualitative factors are and what we're going to be looking for, I think we just want to show that, you know, while we don't have a number in mind, that we have thought specifically and clearly about what we're looking for and what we're looking at and when we'll take action. I just think otherwise it risks being viewed as arbitrary or just too subjective by members of the public. So yeah, having those talking points and listing out, I think the qualitative factors would be really helpful to communicate this. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Director Swift.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if I could have a reminder about how long we're anticipating the traffic to be unilateral.
Unidirectional, actually.
I like unilateral. So the original traffic management plan contemplated for the majority of 2025. At this stage, we're only starting in March. So we're starting a couple of months later than expected, and it is planned to run through till the fall. We are expecting, as you can see here, to complete our force main work by the end of the summer. But there will be other works, paving, final works, as well as the roundabout up at the top of the hill, which delay that into the fall of this year. So it's March until, say, October in the current plans. However, within that time zone, within that larger time, you will have, for example, in March and April, you'll be able to free flow back and forth on the eastern end. And then after May, you'll be able to go free flow from Courtney up to IR1 and back continuously. So there is some nuance in kind of, but for the general public doing the circuit, if you're coming from Comox to Courtney for work, for example, it will be March until October.
And if you're going from Courtney to Comox, you'll be going the Rhine Road Lerwick route as of March.
Correct.
Yeah, thanks. Director Grant.
Yeah, I was just wondering about KFN and the fact that we're going to be going through the edge of the reserve there. How much input have they got in what's going to happen with the traffic on Back Road and how are we dealing with that? Like I can imagine they'd like there less traffic than there is already, let alone more. So they may have a different threshold, right?
Yes, and that is addressed in the report. We have approached Comox First Nation about this change to the traffic management plan. And because this specific closure at Glacier View Drive and Comox Avenue really affects them the most, because you could have all the traffic flowing up Donald and going around if it's closed. So they have indicated they're supportive of leaving it open, as long as that we have the ability to react if they are saying, no, this is becoming unsafe. We're seeing a huge amount more people coming through the reserve. So yeah, they have had input in this, and their request is just that we are able to react relatively quickly if they identify a safety issue in the reserve up on Back Road. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Charlie. No more questions or comments, so we'll vote on receipt. Is there anyone opposed? That's carried, and we have a recommendation that the traffic management plan is outlined be modified to delay the closure of Glacier View Drive and Comox Avenue intersection. And further that the CAO be authorized to implement the intersection closure prior to that if needed. Moved by Grant, seconded by Swift. Questions or comments, discussion? Is there anyone opposed? That motion is carried. Thanks very much, and thank you, Charlie. And we shall move on to item number 5, the sewage conveyance project construction progress dashboard. A motion for receipt, please. Moved by Grant, seconded by Cole Hamilton, and back to staff.
Yeah, just before introducing or turning over to Charlie again, I just wanted to note Ingrid Sly is in our audience here today, and Ingrid is our communications lead for the conveyance project and working with Charlie closely on all things communication. So, Charlie, I think you're introducing this report, but I wanted to acknowledge Ingrid is in the room also.
Thanks for that, and welcome, Ingrid. I'm tempted to ask you to say a few words so that we can check out your communication chops, but perhaps we'll spare that for you today, and look forward to working with you through this year. Over to you, Charlie.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this is our dashboard update. You can see that the monies are ticking along. We're very much on budget on the project, which is great news. But what we're starting to spend is approaching that 50% value. So you can see that we are really we're into it now. We're definitely building a project. The schedule as a whole, nothing has changed. The commissioning plan for early 2026 is still in play. You may have noticed Courtney Pump Station hasn't moved a lot. A big hole in the ground out there. They are working through some serious groundwater issues that is with the contractor, and they're doing a good job of reacting to the differing way that the groundwater is operating down deep underground for them to dig that very deep hole. And we are holding schedule on all the other parts of the project. So at the moment, things are going really well. There is several photos and some milestones for the different portions of the project. So the design, bid, build milestones, which is the portion within the town of Comox. For those that have been out there, you'll notice that the improvements out on Balmoral Avenue are almost complete, and that all the paving in that area is now done. And we've moved the large construction crew to kind of working west in downtown Comox there. You'll see some of the really tricky underground conditions that we're dealing with. You can see a photo here from Port Augusta intersection. And so we're threading our pipe underneath all of those existing services. And so it's a very complex undertaking. And we really appreciate the collaboration with the staff at the town of Comox, who've been fantastic in helping us work through all the issues that you can imagine digging up that deep under very old roads that haven't been disturbed in 100 years. On the design build side, we've finished up the work that we're doing over in the Lazo Road area. We didn't make it all the way to Torrance. We made it to the top of the hill up by Forrester Butcher's area. And they're going to come back to this area in May once the paving plant's open. So we didn't want to leave a section of this road open and gravelly over the winter. There would be a nuisance to the public. So we stopped that install at the top of the hill, and they'll come back and do that last little leg in the spring. And you can see some photos here of doing the road prep and the fresh paving up there. And there'll be some, next month, you'll see some photos of the work we're doing now that we've moved down to Farmview Road down on the dike, and all the complexity of working down there. We're starting to really see some of the complexity of working around the old village sites of the Comox First Nation. And the archaeological side of this project is starting to come to the fore. We also really wanted to bring to the attention of the designs for the pump stations. You can see here the rendering of the Jane Place pump station. You can see an extension of the building here in the same form and height and function of the existing building, which is shown here, as well as an additional odor control unit out here, which is a carbon scrubber to make sure that there's no odor concerns coming from the facility. Similarly, you can see a rendering here of the finished Courtney pump station. Comox Road is off to your left here in the picture, and it's a large 2-story building, and that's due to the flood construction level that we're designing for. This is a climate change resilient facility where everything up to this 2nd story can be fully submersed and flooded, such that we can handle, the things that Mother Nature are going to throw at us over the next 80 years and keep this station fully functioning. That's it from me for the dashboard update. Happy to answer any questions or concerns from the commission.
Thanks, Charlie. I take it there's no room for a sanding dump at either of those pump stations.
I get in a lot of trouble from the contractor every day when I go out to the Courtney pump station site about how little land we bought for them. It's a very constrained site. So no, Chair, I'm sorry.
All right, any questions or comments? It doesn't look like it. So thanks very much for that, Charlie. And I appreciate all the work that's going on as you manage this project along with the rest of our staff. Is anyone opposed to receipt? That is carried. And we now have a motion to go in camera. Moved McCollum, seconded Grant, and the grounds are 91E and K of the community charter. Anyone opposed? That's carried, and we shall move into